Hey everyone, this is Blackhawk SC, and in this video, I'm going to take an in-depth look into the Huntsman, a 50-ton medium clan omnimech. I'll be doing this video in the multi-guide format, which goes over several builds on the same chassis. Since none of the Huntsman variants have CT hardpoints, and none of the stock Omnipod quirks justify the missing hardpoints for our particular build, I treated all the Huntsman variants as a single chassis. The way this video will be organized is that we'll first talk about the Huntsman in general, quickly go over the builds that are more or less clones of the ones found on the Hunchback IIC, and dive into builds that other clan mediums aren't able to do. I'll be referencing the Hunchback IIC quite a bit during this video because these two chassis are very similar. I did delay this guide a bit because of the November 2016 patch that changed some of the clan UI properties. I kind of felt that this was the more responsible thing to do, even though I had all the materials ready before then. The best way to summarize the Huntsman, I think, is to describe it as a direct fire support platform. It can carry a pretty significant weapon payload, about as much as some clan heavies like the Summoner. However, at 50 tons and 87 kph max speed, it's slow and doesn't carry much armor, so it shouldn't get shot at too often. It has a diverse set of omnipods and hardpoints, so you can do nearly every type of build on it. For players who like to get creative with their builds, this offers a lot of options. In fact, I had no real issues putting 6 different builds on the 6 different variants that I own. Another great thing about the Huntsman is that several of its ballistic and energy hardpoints are high mounted. The downside is that some types of builds, especially lasers, are limited by the lack of slots for heat sinks. Other builds could be made better if it had a little bit more tonnage, which is a problem caused by the locked jump jets. Through this lens, we can compare the Huntsman to its closest competitor, the Hunchback IIC. A lot of people will ask which one is better, and in my opinion, unless you're doing an SRM build, the Hunchback is better overall. This is mostly because the Hunchback has no locked equipment and no locked armor type, so you can tweak the available tonnage and slots to precisely what you need. The Huntsman does have better shield arms and better balanced hitboxes than the Hunchback, but overall the Hunchback's offensive features make it superior. Although the Stormcrow isn't a very direct comparison, I feel the Crow is able to play hit and run better than the Huntsman, and therefore engage enemies more independently, while the Huntsman plays fire support better. So if you're deciding between these two chassis, it mostly comes down to what you like to do. Now, in this section, I'll go over some Hunchback IIC style builds. The reason I go over them first is because I've already talked about them extensively in the Hunchback IIC guides, so I'll refer you to those videos about how to play them. I'll link the specific guides in the video description for a quick reference. First up is the Laserama build. This is very similar to the dual LPL triple ERML build on the Hunchback IICA. I would have liked to remove a couple of JJs for an extra heatsink, but 18 is still sufficient. Overall, it's a pretty strong build that's easy to play and makes leveling a breeze. As of this moment, the P omnipods aren't available yet for C-builds, so you can substitute it for a B right arm omnipod. Of course, doing that will cause you to lose a couple of high-mounted ERMLs, but it does allow you to shoot down UAVs more easily. Next we have the dual UAC 10s. This build can only be done with the reinforcement omnipods. And it's also similar to the UAC 10 builds on the Hunchback IIC base and C variants, except without the 2 ERMLs in the CT. Without the 2 lasers, your burst DPS isn't as high. The November patch also nerfed the UAC 10s with an 8-second jam time, so the sustained DPS was hurt by that. Furthermore, 5 tons of ammo really isn't enough, but there wasn't a satisfactory way to get any more on this build. It's definitely not one of my preferred builds, but it's still viable. And if you like DACA focused builds, this is probably the only option. We'll now talk about a few variations of Pop-Tart builds, and we'll start with one that can't be run well on Hunchbacks, which is the Gauss ERPPC version. This build has good DPS, but the downside is that it has only 40-something armor protecting the Gauss in the right torso. As soon as that Gauss gets touched, you'll lose half your mech due to the Gauss explosion. It can be really good though if you can find angles where you'll never get shot back. However, the vulnerability of the right torso prevents it from being my preferred Pop-Tart build. Moving on to dual ear PPCs. These can be done on the Hunchback IICs as well. I did not recommend these earlier in the Hunchback IICA guide because I thought clan LPL builds were good enough at long range and much better at mid range than the ER PPCs. But now that the LPLs received a max range nerf this patch, the ER PPC has now become one of the 2 remaining long range clan energy weapons in this game. There are several variations. You can run them both on a single side, or split them up like I have here. I do prefer the symmetric version because I feel that even if you put both of them on one side, and you lose the other side, your DPS is reduced so much that you can only effectively fire one ERPPC anyway. One issue that didn't go away is that with ERPPC builds without an energy heatgen quirk, in the solo queue, sometimes you'll just get teams that for one reason or another isn't doing very much. Unless that match stays at long range for some time, the damage output on dual ERPPCs is often not enough to compensate for the low damage output of your team. This is in contrast to the laser, DACA, and even the Gauss ERPPC builds, which can more easily put out enough damage to influence a match. What these builds can do though is to open up the field for your teammates, make the enemy duck behind cover, and generally play kind of a utility role. If this is more of your style, then you may enjoy it. For gameplay, you basically try to stay at long to mid-range and use the high mounts or JJs to crest over ridges. Since ERPPC pop-tarting is a pretty repetitive playstyle, I don't think there's a real need for me to show an entire match to demo this build. But I think what will help is to show a clip that demos the heat generation, the weapon placements, and the ERPPC velocity with the TC3. Now let's take a look. So what you should be able to see from this clip is the dual ERPPCs use about 40% of the heat cap on this build, and even though this is already elited, it's still quite a bit. It's still pretty hot. But the good thing is the ERPPC velocity isn't too bad. You can see it kind of reaches even targets that far away in a pretty short amount of time, so the TC3 really helps here. In this section, we'll look at 3 builds that are unique to the Huntsman among the clan mediums. As I've done on previous multi-guides, I'll order the builds by how effective I think they are. First is this 5 ERML Gauss build. I think this build plays very well to the Huntsman's role as a fire support mech. You have a high alpha option with the 5 ERMLs on Gauss, and a higher DPS option with the 3 ERMLs on the Gauss on the right side. So if you need to maximize DPS or don't have enough time to cool down, use the right side weapons only. The more common version of this build uses 4 ERMLs and more heat sinks, and I think that's a reasonable trade-off. However, as I mentioned before, you really don't want to get shot back a lot, so I think the 5 ERMLs help maximize the damage output per exposure. If you play with it for a little while, the heat is not that difficult to get used to. During gameplay, try to stay close to support and corner peek from the right side. After firing, shield with the left side. You can also pump the JJs when you're going back to cover to hopefully spread damage better. I really like this build because although it's primarily a fire support build, it still has the range and alpha size to engage independently in some situations. The modules to use are advanced seismic, radar deprivation, EML range, and Gauss cooldown. Now let's see this in action. So in this match we're on Terra Therma. Terra Therma, despite its heat, is actually a decent map for this build. Because a lot of the engagement happens, the redesigned map kind of makes a lot of fights happen at mid-range, 400, 500, 600 meters. So that's why it's like it can be misleading. So here what happened is like I hear a radar dep blip, and so I was looking for either a mech that was spotting us or like a UAV or something. Looking around, didn't really see anything right now, but there I spot that UAV and shoot it down.
New target acquired.
So most of our team is here, and so we can actually do. We feel confident that we're not going to get focused on because of there being so many targets. Actually, the team is doing a pretty good job here of not, splitting up like a lot of other teams do. So they stayed together, presented a bunch of targets, and so like I can actually support the people who might be getting shot. And see, there is an engagement going on with the lasers and PPCs and ACs firing back and forth. So I feel confident that I'm not gonna be their primary target or their only target. See, the Spirit Bear is going close, going up there. It's probably close range.
Target acquired.
Make sure to, of course, make sure to shield left side with your left side after you shoot. And you see also like I've used that arm laser weapon group at that point because I didn't want to overheat. And make sure you like be, as I mentioned, like in
Enemy
the
base is
kind of the
being
build
captured.
intro, you got to be very careful over heat and know when to use that three-arm laser weapon
Target
group
acquired. New target
instead of like
acquired.
the full alpha. So yeah, that was a kind of a risky poke, and
Target
I
acquired.
was kind of fortunate that Direwolf didn't get too many shots on me.
Enemy base is being captured. Target
But I
acquired.
thought, there was
New
plenty
target
of
acquired.
guys behind me and into the side, so I thought there was a relatively
New
low
target
risk poke, but
acquired.
I did get shot a couple times. But
Target
having that
acquired.
support there is crucial.
New target acquired. Right torso critical damage.
So here, lost my left
Left
arm, that's
arm
okay,
destroyed.
but my right
Heat
torso gets
sink
opened,
destroyed.
so I gotta be more careful about peeking that side. And I decided not to peek
Target
that side
acquired.
anymore
New
because,
target acquired.
if they get one more shot on my right torso, I'm
New
gonna lose that
target
entire
acquired.
component. So I decided to help out
Enemy base
on
is being
the left side
captured.
over here. There's a mini battle going on
Heat
between
level
some medium
critical.
mechs apparently, and a light maybe.
Target
So I took that
acquired.
shot, and I think
New
the
target
Shadow Cat was dead
acquired.
already before I took the shot, but it looked like it was alive and was just
Enemy
backing up, but
base is
it kind
being
of
captured.
collapsed
Heat level critical.
right as I shot, so oh
New
well.
target acquired. Heat level critical.
So here again, we were using that arm laser weapon group to prevent overheating.
Enemy base is being captured. Target acquired. Target acquired. New target acquired.
I think here, yeah, here we'll see one really cool thing
New
about the
target
Huntsman is that the
acquired.
arm weapons aren't very low
Enemy
mounted,
base
and
is being captured.
it's
Heat
a problem
level
with a lot of
critical.
like
Gauss rifle
a lot of
destroyed.
mechs out there actually. The arm weapons being so low, but
Target
here
acquired.
you
Heat
don't need to
level critical.
expose all that much of your mech
Heat level critical. New
to
target
get that damage
acquired.
out of the arm lasers. I
Enemy
mean,
base is being captured.
also I got a break. As you see right
New
now,
target
see the
acquired.
Gauss rifle
Base is being
is
captured.
destroyed, and typically what happens is that it will explode. And I caught a lucky break in that
Enemy
it
base
didn't
is
actually
being
explode
captured.
in this case. So I think
Target
it's like a
acquired.
90% chance to explode. So I got that 10% chance where it
Base
didn't
is being
explode. So
captured.
I kept my
Capture the base
three arm
before they
lasers,
capture
kept
ours.
my heat capacity,
Target
kept
acquired.
my speed,
New target
all that good
acquired.
stuff.
Enemy base is being captured. New target
And again, that was
acquired.
a hit
Base
I
is
think that was a
being
hit to the
captured.
right torso, but maybe it was
Target
only one ER
acquired.
PPC because dual ER PPC should have destroyed it, but it
Target
didn't.
destroyed. Target acquired. Base is
Anyways,
being
we
captured.
did catch a few lucky breaks here,
Base 25% captured.
especially with the Gauss.
Enemy base is being captured. Heat level critical. Target destroyed.
On my way to get the
Target
cap.
acquired. Base is
So we just
being
need to finish up
captured.
the guys on the right side before we start help capping.
Target
There's a
acquired.
cap war going on, as
Enemy
you can
base
see right
is
now.
being captured. Heat level critical.
And we're also
Base
leading the
is
cap game,
being
so
captured.
it's more or less just finishing up the game and just ending
Enemy
it.
base is being captured.
Hopefully, what you should have seen in this gameplay demo is we're just trying to
Base
play
is
fire
being
support most
captured.
of the time, trying to take some risk, but calculated risks about when to peak, but mostly relying on our teammates to draw most of the fire, taking some shots, sharing some armor once in a while, and that's how you should be playing this mech. Next up is the UAC and lasers build. This is another build that I had to revisit since the latest patch because of the jam chance and heat changes to the Clan UAC 5. Unlike the Gauss build I talked about earlier, this is much more focused on providing good burst DPS over about 5 seconds of exposure, and providing decent sustained DPS when the situation permits. Ideally, you're looking for opportunities where the enemy is already engaged and you can shoot them without having them shoot back at you. You can also try to find angles that the enemy isn't looking at, and then dishing out a few seconds worth of damage. But if the enemy is already anticipating your peak, typically you'll lose direct trades. Make sure to find cover once both your UACs jam, if you're close to your heat cap, or if the enemy starts to focus on you. Compared with the pre-patch UACs, the jam changes didn't affect this sort of laser UAC build as much as, say, a UAC boat. Because we're focused on burst DPS, not really on sustained DPS, if the UACs jam, you just need to wait a little longer under cover. What does affect it more, I think, is the increased heat, which leads to having to cool down for a longer period of time before attempting to engage the enemy again. Overall, the build still works pretty well, as long as you can control your own rate of fire. The modules to use are Advanced Seismic, Radar Deprivation, EML Range, and UAC 5 Cooldown. Okay, let's get into a gameplay demo. On Canyon Network, if we're starting on this side, because we're in mid-range, we go through the canyon up to D4 first, because if you go up on C3, the top level, you're actually opening up yourself to long-range fire, and we don't have that range to shoot back. So we're kind of cautiously moving up this canyon here. Missed a couple shots on the UX. I should have just waited until the lasers finished burning and shot. Didn't do that though.
Heat level critical. New target acquired.
For a fast-moving target, just like that crab, just to kind of conserve ammo.
Acquired.
Don't just keep double tapping the UX. So you can, if it moves, it changes direction, then you can, then you can place your shots well. I was concerned about moving up because I saw some laser fire coming from Echo 4, but that Shadow Cat moved out of Echo 4 I saw, so it was safe for me to move up. My seismic tells me there's something down there, but I can't really shoot down without exposing myself too much across to fire from Charlie 5, so but now we see what it is. Just take some fire there. Take some shots there.
New target acquired. New target acquired. New target acquired. Base is being captured. New target acquired.
Enemy is kind of spread out. So I don't know what to make of it. Some of them are obviously capping, and they're leaving some of their assaults behind. Like one of them is a Delta 5, a King Crab. See, he has a short range build. I was thinking that he might be looking over at Charlie 5, Charlie 4. So I thought that, if I do this, I might be coming in from behind. I definitely do not want to get super close to him and have him look at me. And he wasn't looking at C4, C5. And here's where you can see we did manage to kill the King Crab, but I shut down. And before the patch, I would not have shut down on those shots, on the last shot, because it would not have generated enough heat. I think I would have stayed under the heat cap in that case.
Target acquired. New target acquired. Warning.
Because of the increased heat on the UAC 5s, I find that I'm able to use the lasers less than I used to be able to. But you can still make use of the lasers, as long as you have enough time to cool down. The enemy team is at a kind of a bad position right now. They're kind of trapped on low ground, and we're kind of surrounding them up on high ground. And this, a lot of times, this is what happens. Like if the team starts capping, they get trapped. We close in, encircle them. So I dropped an airstrike right there, as you can see, and I think a friendly linebacker actually walked into my airstrike. So yeah.
Heat level critical. Target destroyed.
You see they're desperately, the enemy team's desperately trying to cap. We were pretty close, but you know, if you cap, it really just concentrates all of the team into one area without being able to move very much. There's not a lot of cover around that, around the capture point. So it really just opens up this team to a lot of fire, and I think, honestly, I think that's what loses them the game in reality. Like, it's actually pretty close now, but yeah, they kind of just put themselves in that position that was not that good. It was like 7-6, and then now went to 9-6 because they can't really maneuver around. They just try to cap, you know. So
Target destroyed. New target.
you know, if you're at 7-6, don't cap, just fight. Anyway, so we just need to go and kill the last disco here.
Target destroyed.
And we finish him off. So what you should see is we're, you know, attempting not to get shot, and we did an okay job of that. Lastly, we'll talk about a build for the hero variant, the Pakhet. This is perhaps the most interesting, but unfortunately the least consistent build of the three highlighted builds in this video. And that's simply due to how the current public queue meta mostly favors mid and mid-long range. But when it gets into a favorable map, or into a good position on a ranged map, it can do quite well. Like other SRM mediums, the idea isn't to go into a full-on brawl, since they really don't have the durability to do that. Instead, you should strike and fade, avoiding long exposure times, and providing close support if an enemy is already brawling with your teammates. Here's where the accuracy of the Artemis SRM-4s come in. Since the Huntsman is so slow, it needs to stick close to support. While the SRM-4s and 6s have the same range on paper, the 4s do more concentrated damage at over 150 meters. So while your overall damage numbers may look lower, the damage efficiency goes up for those hit and run SRM strikes. The jump jets also come in very handy for SRM pop-tarting. Don't be afraid to alpha strike if you're doing pop-tarting or have a fast way to get back to cover. The 8 SRM-4s only take the mech up to 50% of its heat cap. If you're doing close support or trying to maximize DPS, then obviously fire the SRMs in two groups. For modules, use Advanced Seismic, Rate of Deprivation, SRM-4 range, and cooldown. The following gameplay video I think demos what I've been talking about quite well, so let's take a look.
Bravo.
New target acquired.
So Grim Plexus is normally a long-range map, at least in the beginning, but in this match our team decided to get really aggressive and push up to the enemy position in F7. It's really good for us for SRM, for an SRM build.
New target acquired.
So obviously we're not going to push up all the way to F7 because we know there's a lot of them there. So we go ahead and drop a UAV right up there. Now we see where they are, we can actually start pop-tarting. We can kind of like pre-aim with that information and get good shots off. So I would highly recommend carrying a UAV in this when you're doing this build, when you're running this build.
New target acquired.
You can see the alphas aren't really that hot. You can alpha several times, well actually 2 times before you need to cool down. And so we see a flank coming on our left, and so because now we're trying to support our team, we're going to not
New target
offline, just
acquired.
go for firing it in two separate
I'm coming
groups.
losing that motor.
New target acquired.
I'm gonna knock down the
Target
ears.
acquired. Target destroyed. New target
So we
acquired.
kind of knocked out that adder in one shot. So you can see how good that concentrated damage is. The adder CT is kind of big too, but you know the the SRM4s definitely
Target
helped there.
destroyed.
And we saw the IV4 had an open side
New
torso, so we
target
aimed for that
acquired.
and we were able to take it down.
Target acquired. New target acquired.
Took a little bit of risk, but I think it was
Target
okay
acquired.
with the heat there.
New
And
target
if you're able to
acquired.
come back into cover, you know, shutting down
New
isn't so
target
bad
acquired. Target
if you're like
destroyed.
pop-tarting.
New target
And
acquired.
actually, we just need to finish up these last two guys over here. The match was really quick.
Only two left.
New target acquired.
Bomb rush 'em.
Missile. Heat level critical. Target destroyed. New target acquired.
Nicely done.
Just try to get yourself into these kinds of positions where you can pop-tart or you can strike and fade very quickly. Make sure to manage the heat well. Alright guys, that's it for the Huntsman guide. If you see any issues or have suggestions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. And be sure to subscribe for new MechWarrior online videos. A special thanks for the viewer who has made this video possible. Well, see you next time.